Um, Good. Let me check on Jonas. I'm loving his background because he's actually telling me where I want to be right now, right? And Jonas, can you hear me? Yeah, your background is very, very intimate. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? You're teasing me. That's the word. It's that's Pedro and I. That's where we want to be. That's where me and Pedro want to be right now. That's great. That's great. Sign me up. Okay, good. Susan, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Hanging in there. How was your Labor Day?
It was good. I was on call. So other than that, it was good.
So were you actually called in or just on standby?
I was on call. I was called in a couple times.
No, nothing. Your phone didn't go off by happenstance mistake.
No, unfortunately not.
Oh no.
That's
Next
okay.
time call me. Next time you call me, and then I'll just keep your line busy for you, right?
There you go.
Just put me on mute and then walk away, and then we'll call it a day.
There you go.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. Frank, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. How was your holiday?
You know, considering we got hit pretty bad with the hurricane, but otherwise we're.
Oh my
What's that?
Did you lose anything personal, family, property?
Well, mostly property. You know, just trying to deal with that. So what are you going to do? Is what it is.
How's the insurance working for you? How's FEMA and then your private insurance? How are they stepping up?
Well, surprisingly, FEMA has not declared our area like a disaster. Hopefully they will. So nothing there, but you know, insurance is going to be, you know, the first step.
Yeah. I mean, these times, all we wanted was have the insurance. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's you know, it's always a tough thing, but we'll be fine.
Okay, you hang in there. If anything we can do to help you, please send me an email, okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Hang in there. Anybody else on the call that was impacted by the storm? Okay. Well, Frank, we're here in solidarity with you. Okay, Frank?
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tyler, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good, no complaints. It's been a busy week to get started, but a good week thus far.
Did you get time to take some time off for Labor Day?
Yeah, we had a long weekend and started off on Thursday night with rehearsal dinner for a family wedding, and then the wedding, and then hang out with friends. So it was a good weekend.
Oh, that is awesome. That's always encouraging. Spend a good time with your friends and family. Can't beat that.
Yeah, it had been a while.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good. Let me see if I can pick on one more person. Chantel, you're big in my screen. Center forward. How are you?
I'm doing good.
How was your holiday weekend?
I was working and doing homework, but I did get time to take my daughter out to the beach. So
that is the most important part. The grade can wait. Yes, I said it, but I'm glad that you spent some time with your family. Pedro, stop laughing at me, Pedro. Pedro will be like, yeah, right. Wait till you see your grade. But that's great. I'm glad you have fun with your daughter. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, she was swimming. Even with the waves, I was so proud of her.
Oh, I think you told us. How old is she again?
She's 3 years old.
Oh, enjoy. Talking about daughter, I brought my daughter today. Can you imagine how I can bore a 12-year-old with economics? I don't know if you guys can see her.
Oh, hi.
Say hello. She's shy. So today she's just bored to sit next to me. I feel sorry for her. I really, really do. So
I would like to ask her if she could, you know, she's done this course so many times, she could probably teach it as well, right? Well, dad and daughter, huh?
All right. Frank said you can take over the class for me, and then I'll give you my paycheck. She said, okay. Everybody will pass, right? Everybody will have an A. Just make sure you don't have a good Disney character name in your paper. You do very, very well. You will do really, really well. All right. Okay, we have 7:06. Let's go through. I'm excited about tonight. Really, really am. We're almost there, y'all. I mean, this is it. I mean, after this next week, and then that's it. I mean, we are, like I keep saying, week 8, but the announcement says 7. Let's see if I can get some humor going on here. Ladies and gentlemen, I put a lot of time into this selection. So if you don't laugh, at least fake it for me. That'd be pretty cool. You can fake it. I'd be like, yes, I wouldn't know the difference. So there's a clue in here why the first ones, they took the water cooler. Would you mind if we gather around your chit chat? Why did they choose him? Oh,
His head looks like a water cooler.
thank you very much. Yeah. Now everybody sees it now? Right, so they really have a sense of humor here. And then this is what I call a senior moment. Our neighbor, Mr. Smith, kisses his wife every day before he goes to work. How come you never do? And then look how he replies, honey, how could I? I don't even know her, right? So let's all hang in there. We'll get there one day. Okay. Oh, you guys didn't laugh. I guess that one wasn't funny. Okay. Thanks for trying anyway. I appreciate it. Whoever gave me a chuckle, that is going to go a very long way. So today we're going to talk about currency. So next week you're diving into currency. And then you've been hearing this about tax shelters. What does that mean, and how we can make an argument for currency? Because you are going to have a post regarding currency, looking at a company in Canada and how they have to pay their employees in the US, and what are the factors that goes into the prompt. So I want to kind of just introduce currency. If you're not too familiar with currency, we're going to talk about that. And then this whole conversation you hear about tax havens, since you're doing an international expansion, if you do make some money, you can have an intelligent conversation around where you want to park your money and what kind of subsidiaries that you want to put together to allow that to happen. And then last week, you guys were so generous with your time. We had a great conversation. I don't know if Sydney's on. And we had a phenomenal conversation last week around, M&A, and then we went way over our time as always. So I'll do just a recap of what we discussed, and then we take a quick break, and then I'll do another recap regarding milestone 3. And if you have any questions, again, in the chat, if you can monitor, somebody can monitor that for me. And let me pick on Susan. Do you mind monitoring the chat for me this evening if you don't have to cut out early?
No problem.
All right, I owe you one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Susan will be my moderator, my co-moderator in the chat, and then we can kind of go from there. So it's really light, but if the conversation picks up, we'll definitely fill up our time cap. If we don't have to stay till 8:30, we can set a record today and literally leave exactly at 8:30. But let's cross our fingers. All right, unless my daughter takes over, she can just let you guys go right now. All right. Let's do something. This is quite interesting to me. I have a few more weeks with you, so I want to kind of leave you guys with some memorable qualitative concept. So as your Speak MBA, I'm looking at things critically from a leadership perspective, right? If you were to look at the statements on the left-hand side, how would you pair it up with 1, 2, and 3? Which statement will go with 1? Which statement will go with 2? Which statement will go with 3? Just to get the creative thinking started on the qualitative side today. So I can read the first block. It says the important thing you know about how to turn problems into opportunities. What picture will go with that statement?
Number 2,
Well, you're 100% right. Why did you say that?
because they sharpen both ends.
Right, exactly. Okay, so somebody can say, this opportunity is not going to be working for us, and they focus more on the challenges. You could be that kind of executive in the room and say, okay, well, what is that opportunity in that room that we can seize, right? That we can turn a negative into a positive, as the saying goes. Then the next statement says, sometimes in life, everything goes smoothly. Which line will associate with that?
1,
Absolutely. Why do you say 1?
because it's growing pretty well.
Yeah, Right, it is no dent, it's just smooth. And as all of us can attest, there's no business conversation you can ever have with a business where we can say for consecutive quarters of 15 plus years, everything has been smooth. So during these times where you have these contingency plan in place and you enjoy the upward, and then you also harbor and prepare for the downward. So nothing is permanent. That's the point of number one. And then by default, and sometimes unexpected happens, where was a process elimination.
3.
Right, is the broken pen, right? So the pencil, excuse me. So once it's snapped in half, we know exactly that we can turn into a number 2 when we seize the opportunity. Then also the whole is that. So I just thought it was really something creative to always look at a pencil, and when it's broken into half, let that trigger qualitative analysis, right? You can use that to make a quick analysis about the behavior of a business, the behavior of your organization, so forth, just by taking a pencil. All right, so let's get into this, right? So when you guys, let me start out with just a general conversation, see where your pulse is before I go into greater detail. So what do you guys know about tax dodgings, avoidance, whatever synonym you want to use, tax havens, stealing, not reporting your financials properly, hiding overseas? These are some of the terms that people use. What are your experiences with that? Have you heard it? Have you read about it? Have you experienced it? Can you shine some light on it for me? Anybody been audited personally by the IRS before? No. No?
I was audited when I was 8.
Whoa, wait. Now you're gonna be a suspect for me. How you were audited when you were 8 years old?
Yeah.
Expand on that for me, because I want to know.
So, yeah, it was, I guess, whenever I was born, my parents started college funds and things like that. And so, you know, for the taxes and everything, they were always done under my name. And there was some mishap or something when I was about 8 years old, and I was audited for a nickel difference, and the fine was 35 cents. It cost an auditor more money in the time spent looking at an 8-year-old's receipts than they got back. So, yeah.
That is the most shocking news I've heard the whole entire year. Interesting. Wow, you're gonna go down in my history book. That is interesting. I can't find any other word to use but interesting.
I'll take it.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. So we're trying to link personal to business, but obviously the conversation on Washington, particularly around this conversation, is around making sure that we resource the IRS to be able to do more and to go after many of these corporations. I think even last class we talked, one of your peers asked a great question: how do they get away with it? How can Amazon not pay taxes? So again, during preparing my notes for you guys, it went on in my head like we can go deeper on that phenomenal question. How is that possible? So let's look at the United States. We are not super clean, right? Look at China, look at Japan, look at India, look at France, look at Germany, and so forth, all the way down to the UK, United Kingdom. Look at the amount of money that we're not able to collect. And that is literally an avoidance that we're losing. It's out of this world. And anybody want to comment on this before I go to the actual details of how this came about?
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying something about that. It has really always burned me up to see how rich people and rich corporations can get away with doing this and not have to pay any penalties. Us, if you just miss something on your tax, boy, they're going to hang you, but these guys they just store away millions and not pay any taxes. That's just unreal. It's not fair. That's my.
Anybody want to add? Oh, great interjection, Peter, and I can sense your passion in what you just said. So thanks. You're not alone. So thanks for sharing that. Anybody else want to add on to what Peter just alluded to?
I'll just add one word to that: is it's not just unfair; it's criminal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So is this a regulation issue or an enforcement issue or a combination of both? How do we address it?
I believe it's both. I think there are loopholes in the tax code that allows people with means to take advantage of loopholes that I'll say those of us on the call here, wouldn't be able to typically take care of. And then there's an enforcement, right? I mean, if you spend an hour floating around on Reddit and you see the SEC and things with short selling regulations and things like that, that there's blatant manipulation and there's just no enforcement behind certain things because it costs too much money to enforce. And there are other people that are making money from lack of enforcement.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, anybody, I want at least one more comment and then I want to add something to that. Good point, very good point. Anybody else on this whole idea of tax avoidance and how we can look at from a global expansion perspective?
Not,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Carly. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Chantal. I was just wondering, I've heard that they're trying to set a global minimum tax and like Ireland was unhappy about it because a lot of businesses have their money parked there. So just don't know where that stands.
And that's something that Joe Biden is pushing aggressively. And exactly your point that the countries that are here to benefit, they're literally going to fight against it for that reason that you just articulated, that it's not in their best interest to have this world order come in to say, look, can we have a conversation around this avoidance and not having these tax havens that wealthy individuals, wealthy corporations are using it as a form of business combination. I'm glad that we're going to tie business combination into this. You're going to see how they use business combination to literally hide money. And we're going to show that in a moment after Chantel says her comment. Chantel?
I was just gonna say another, just add on kind of what everybody else was saying. The kind of thing that annoys me is all the corporations, like in all the tax cuts that they get, or not. I know we're talking about people, but also like I just feel like corporations themselves not having to pay, especially like Amazon. They use they use the same roads we do to build those same highways, and like how come they don't get to help build those infrastructure that helps their business too?
Mm-hmm. And let me add on to that too, Chantel. So everybody, can we, unless somebody wants to say something with Chantel, I don't want to hijack this.
I was just going to say, in a counterpoint to this, they create a lot of business in our country. I don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, but I think there's a fear of not having these big businesses, and that our economy would suffer even more without them.
Good. So Susan, let me build on that, unless somebody else has something quick. Susan, you raised a counter argument to that. It's like they're job creators, but which sector of businesses create more jobs, corporations or small businesses?
Small business.
Small businesses.
Thank you. Right. So 66%, give and take, let's use 60% of all jobs in this country is created by small businesses. Now we can look into the weeds. What's classified as small businesses? Anybody with 500 or less employees? Okay. Looking at the top revenue. Okay. But we all can agree in principle that the engine of growth has always been coming from small businesses. Just to add on to what you're saying. So job creation is an argument people have, but once you dig into the weeds, it has a conversation around small business or creating more jobs. That's interesting. And I don't know if there's any lawyer on this call. If you are, you're going to need to help me out a little bit. So what is a sole proprietor? What's the textbook definition of a sole proprietor?
Only one owner for the company.
Yeah, so you have a lot of liabilities, right? It's only you and yourself, right? If anything goes wrong, we're coming after your assets, right? What is an LLC and an LLP?
Limited liability company.
Yep. And then the P will be for what?
Yeah, they only are responsible for a certain amount of the problems and responsibility of the company.
Phenomenal. And then for corporations, what is the legal definition of a corporation? It's a what? It starts with an E.
Has shareholder.
Okay, so they could be shareholder, exactly. So multiple shareholders, right? They pay out dividends, but there's a legal word that they use that they can do a lot of this damage that they're doing.
The legal entity.
Thank you very much. Who said that? I couldn't see that in the.
Frank.
Thank you so much. It's a legal entity. In the eyes of the law, a corporation is a person, like Susan, like Chantel, like Alyssa, like Abbas. Like for all of us, they are seen as a person. Let me give you a case study. I'm getting super excited, so I gotta watch my time again because you guys are really throwing some great comments here. Asking for permission. If you guys remember a few months ago, what happened to Wells Fargo? What were they doing? They were doing something really bad.
Were they opening up bank accounts for individuals that didn't want bank accounts?
That's it.
Exactly. It's exactly. What kind of accounts were they opening? Checking accounts or savings accounts?
I don't recall.
Those credit accounts.
I thought they were opening up credit cards too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Good. So
Yeah.
awesome. And then they can be able to charge fees, right? Overdraft. I mean, annual fees, so they can manipulate their numbers a little bit. But then the CEO walks out with a parachute. Okay, pays millions of dollars. I don't know the exact number, but for my memory bank, it was like maybe $100 and something million to walk away. To walk away. And an argument that one of my clients were having a conversation was they were very curious, like, Bismark, how? Well, I said, well, they're shielded from any liability. They're going after Wells Fargo, not him. That's quite interesting. So in short, let me link this conversation. It matters heavily how you're legally incorporated as a business. Either you're doing it in Delaware, if you're doing it in Nevada, or you're doing Ireland. It matters a lot because it has a tax implication conversation. And many businesses will hire people from K Street, which is lobbying capital of Washington, D.C., and have governmental affairs within their corporations to fight for this. It's quite interesting. Next slide. So with all that said, that was my build up to this slide. I want you to digest this for a moment. I want you to just digest this for a moment. So the top header says US tech companies hoard billions in offshore havens. And just for fairness, this is back in 2014. And ladies and gentlemen, this number is not going down, it's only going up, okay, with all fairness. But the best I can find for us for this conversation was 2014. Look at Apple, look at Microsoft, look at IBM. These are not small companies. Can we all agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
These are major corporations, major brands with top lines. And what excites me the most, look at Cisco. How many subsidiaries do they have?
59.
What's a subsidiary?
It's a company owned, by a parent company. So it's another company owned by someone else.
Okay, so with all fairness, just to kind of get everybody creative thoughts rounding through. So Facebook owns what are their two major subsidiaries that a lot of young people are crazy about?
Instagram, one of them.
Instagram is one, and then one that's it's a chat platform that's very famous around the world, more international than the US.
Jonas says,
WhatsApp.
what's up?
WhatsApp, thank you very much. Right, it's a subsidiary. Now, in a conversation with to Frank's point, subsidiary, right? It's a legal entity that's owned by the parent company. So what is the parent company for Google now?
Alphabet.
Alphabet, okay? So when the moment we have a conversation around subsidiary, it's a synonym that you can have a strong conversation around different types of business combination. And last week, refresh my memory because I don't know anything, sincerely, or honestly. What was the different types of business combination we discussed? What was some of them?
Joint venture was one.
Joint venture is one.
Horizontal and vertical.
Ooh, I'm getting excited. Ooh, thank you very much. What's the difference? I'm not picking you, I'm picking on you, but help me out. What's an example of horizontal and what's an example of vertical integration when it comes to M&A? I mean, business combination.
Horizontal is like going up and down the ladder. So it's like going up the supply chain or down the supply chain.
Love
And
it.
yeah, and then horizontal is going sideways. So would it be, I know it's just going sideways, but so it's like getting just another similar company? Or
Okay. Good. No, you're warm. Keep going. Be confident. You're spot on. You're warm. So finish your thought.
I was just trying to think of an example because I know you're talking about Disney and all the Disneyland cruises, but I'm not sure if those were horizontal or vertical at that point.
Good. What about the first case study we did?
Oh, that was with the with the core metals. And like that was the golden company that wanted to expand to iron ore.
Yes, so that would be a perfect example of what, would it be vertical or horizontal?
That'd be horizontal because it'd be gold going to iron.
Exactly, right? So they're within the abstract industry, okay, which is abstracting things, raw material, right? One is in gold, one is iron ore. So they can take some of the knowledge from gold and then bring it over to iron ore. Two separate products, but the same type of space. So that's horizontal, okay? So it's like an oil refinery saying that, you know what, I do upstream, now I want to get into downstream. That would be horizontal. All right, good. So that's part of the subsidiary play. And I don't know what kind of subsidiary play that Apple is engaged in, but we can now have an intelligent conversation that it's a type of business combination, true or false?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be a franchise, right? That's a subsidiary. It could be a joint venture, M&A, right? So any legal entity that they're going to choose could be an SBU, a strategic business unit, right? Or they can do a SPAC. These are all different types of acquisitions that they can make into a subsidiary that they can hide their money. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. This is not small change. $181 billion offshore. And why is it that they don't want to bring it back to the US? Can anybody tell me rhetorically?
They don't want to pay taxes.
Ding, 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 ding. They don't want to pay taxes.
Well,
So
US tax, right?
Thank you very much. And good. So let's build on that. So what is the disincentive of not want to pay US tax and maybe want to pay Ireland tax? What's the main simple number?
Well, the taxes in this example, your example, the taxes in the US are going to be much higher. The tax rate is much higher than in Ireland. So you'd want all your money, your revenue to be generated in Ireland, so you pay less tax overall.
And perfect, good point, right? And then I think Chantel or one of your peers also made this statement in the beginning, and my mental note was, but they also drive our roads, they go to our airports. Don't they have an incentive to ensure that these taxes come back home so that we can improve the public good? That's the conversation we want to have. Nobody wants to pay taxes. Everybody on this call, let's be very honest and sincere with ourselves. We don't want to pay taxes, but we see the value in paying taxes when it comes to schools, when it comes to municipal services, right? When it comes to our defense, we understand once we see value for money. But many of these corporations, the conversation now is, or the government, for lack of better words, fix yourself. Like, well, we need to generate revenue in order for us to do A, B, and C. So I don't know where political line that you come off of. This is non-political. This has to do with business and the bottom line to shareholders. And at the end of the day, it's not fair to this host country where you're actually taking resources from. Okay, any comment on this slide before I go to my next one? Did anything surprise you here? Is anything here that surprised you?
They're all tech companies.
Right, they're all tech companies, yeah. You know, the other big boys too do it, but this slide I'm just picking on tech because it's a heavy conversation in Silicon Valley right now around the amount of money that they're making, and we're not seeing it. Anybody else?
It's interesting that I guess you can quantify that, right? Like, I guess if you know how much the company is making, but I don't know if that's 100% true, because you say 181 million or the slide says 181 million for Apple, but I'm sure if they were to bring the money to the US, it would be done differently. You probably they wouldn't be paying 181 million or billion, sorry. So I get what the slide is saying, but I don't know if the numbers are 100% accurate, right?
So what the slide is saying, and I think the slide, whoever created the slide is not here to defend themselves, but what we can infer into it is that the amount held offshore,
Yeah.
right? So, good. So now that conversation we can have is how much of that, is there any track record of how much of that has come back to the US that's taxable? So from an IRS perspective, right, I'm seeing a taxable, I'm looking at gross now, okay? I'm looking at a taxable amount of 181. Now, the conversation that Apple can have is that, oh, we need to deduct A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, and maybe the only thing you get is 50 billion. Out of that 50 billion, how much are you going to bring back home so I can tax it? That's the conversation that we want to have with tech companies and the major corporations that have havens across the country, across the world. You see?
Oh, yeah, no, I get it. I'm just wondering about the numbers themselves, but the concept of, yeah, there are companies out there that are making their money overseas so they don't have to pay US tax.
Yeah,
I agree with those numbers, actually. I mean, there's a massive amounts that Apple is the largest corporation now, right now. Just 181 billion. I think it could be a very accurate number.
Yeah, but here's here's the thing, and then I'm not going to say anymore. But the 181 billion is assuming that all of the money that they made overseas would be brought back onshore. If we turned around and said, you know what, every single dollar that leaves this country is going to be taxed, I guarantee you that Apple will not be making the 181 billion of taxes to be paid. They are either going to lay off people, they're going to downsize, they're going to spin off. So that 181 million is a number, but it's not a number that's actually going to come back to the US.
Oh, no, it's not. There's no question about it. That's why they keep it away from, from taxes. They want to keep it in another country. I hate seeing it as much as you do. I mean, that really burns me up. But you talk about massive amounts of money that there is no way that we could possibly make enough noise for them to even look at us. It's not going to happen. They're going to keep hiding their money.
Yeah, fair statement.
So, but let's look at it from the other perspective, right? We are giving them incentives to be able to hide the money, right? So once you're domiciled, what's the word domicile mean in layman's term when companies domicile somewhere?
Or where they're incorporated or where they're...
Exactly, right? So they're based. I'm sorry, someone else was going to say something? Okay, so use Frank word. So they're based, right? So if I'm domiciled, I register my company in Delaware. I'm domiciled X, Y, and Z, wherever I'm registered at. That's my parent host country. Let me give you some stats. While Pedro and Frank were talking, I just had to look at my notes real quick. So Apple right now, as we speak, there's a difference between market cap, okay, and the actual company's net worth, okay? So Apple's market cap as we speak today, when the market closed at 4 o'clock, was $2.59 trillion. I didn't stutter. $2.59 trillion. When I got into banking, when a company hit $1 trillion, we started with out of this world. We couldn't even wrap our mind a company having a market cap of $2.59 trillion. Their net profit, this is beautiful in my humble opinion, is 86 billion. Okay, so my question is, out of that 86 billion, how much would we be able to tax? And the point I'm making here is that if we have some international norms that we can have a conversation with companies that it doesn't matter where you're domiciled. If you're domiciled in the US, we have what we call windfall profits, right? That we want to be able to, or if you want to use capital gains, that we want to be able to tap into that to ensure that I can't think of a better phrase to use than that, but ensure that we're providing equitable services for our nation, ensure that we're making it, create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. These are just interesting phrases. But the point here is that the more resources we have, the more we can do with. And many of these companies don't have the proper incentive globally to be able to do that. And the only tools that we have in our arsenal, and I use the word only in quotation, is to lower what? Trump did it, and Joe Biden did something else. To do what? To provide an incentive. Well, what did Trump do?
Lower taxes.
Lower taxes.
Yes. So Frank, I mean, we're looking at these abstract concepts, right? But I'm hoping that we can have a better conversation, even if it's 200 billion or even if it's 1 billion. What incentives can we give them to ensure that it's better made in America it's better to ensure that safeguard their employees, because you're right that maybe they may retaliate, but what incentives can we give them to hold American jobs, right? To ensure that the money that they bring over here, it's earmarked for something that will benefit Apple in the long run. Maybe lesser regulation. I'm in favor of that. Bring your money and we're going to give you some passes, not on privacy and security, but we can give you some passes somewhere else, right? That you're not getting, that maybe you're getting in Ireland or Panama or the Cayman Islands. So interesting. So that's just my take on that. I just think we need to give them better incentives. Same
It'll
thing.
be interesting to see, because they're, talking about the global minimum tax. So that's definitely going to cause some drama on the world stage. So we'll see what happens.
I can't wait. My last slide on this, because I'm getting super excited around this whole subsidiary thing, just to make a point around how important business combination is. That's my point of these last two slides, what we're going to go over. Goldman Sachs, anybody familiar with Goldman Sachs? What do they do?
It's a financial company, I believe.
Good, you're 100%. They're a financial company. What kind of financial company are they?
Investment.
I think banking, yeah.
Okay, good. So investments, aka banking. So if we put that together, investment banking firm, right? Definitely the golden star, no pun intended, of Wall Street. When Goldman Sachs speaks, the entire Wall Street shivers, and right? It's real. It's a powerhouse. And if you look at their turnover, it's out of this world, right? But sincerely, look at how many business combinations that they got involved in. That is just out of this world. Morgan Stanley, another private investment banking firm, and the list goes down. Marriott, okay? Again, it's just to show you that when you talk about business combination, it's not something that we just say, oh, it's cute on paper. It's an actual business activity that has a lot of leg. And especially you have an MBA, if you enjoy the concept of banking, you enjoy the concept of like how businesses are structured, you have a bright future in this space, because it's an activity that gathers a lot of momentum, especially when it comes around tax havens. All right, so I'm done. I just wanted to introduce that so I can get into currency, so I can also leverage that for business combination. So any last minute comments on tax havens? Okay. All right, going once, going twice, so, all right, so I don't want to make an assumption again that when we throw the terms currency and the words that flow with currency, that we all have an understanding of it. So this slide is going to insult your intelligence a little bit, because I'm just going to give you 4 major words around currency and the meaning of it, and then we're going to digest it in a moment. So exchange rate. Okay, so when we hear the word exchange rate, it's the price of one currency in terms of another currency. So every currency, right? So let's make this conversation flow. Mexico, what's their currency?
Pesos.
Peso.
Thank you very much. India, what's their currency?
Rupee,
Office,
Okay, the United Kingdom, what's their currency?
pound,
pound,
Pounds,
Germany, what's their currency?
euro,
Okay, France, what's their currency?
same, euro.
Okay, Jamaica, where I want to go right now because of my brother's background. Jamaica, where's their currency?
US dollar.
US dollar, or I like the dollar part, but what do they call theirs?
Jamaican dollar.
Jamaican dollar, thank you very much. Saudi Arabia, what do they use?
reals,
Thank you very much. And then let me get one more. Nigeria, what do they use?
We'll go with Nigerian dollar.
no,
Okay,
no,
okay, nice guess, but it starts with an N.
Nero,
Nero. Nero. Oh, come on, let's try again.
Jonas says Niera.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Hi. So Naira. Okay.
Naira.
So these are all different types of currencies, and they have their names to go with it. Now, if you're taking any notes on this slide, before you get my slides, when you hear the word G8, what comes to mind?
The largest countries in the world.
In the
Okay, good.
economics.
Exactly. So good. In the context of the economies of the largest players, GDP base, we call them the G8. Also, in the context of a conversation with someone around currency, they also call it the G8 basket, which are the top 8 currencies in the world. We also refer to them as the G8. What's the greenback? When somebody says the greenback, what currency are they talking about?
Dollar.
dollar,
The dollar. The dollar is also referred as the greenback. Okay. So the price of one currency in terms of another is called the exchange rate. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a business model by itself. Sometimes when you hear somebody says hedge your currency, that's what they're talking about, exchange loss or exchange gain. If you keep your money in Saudi Arabia because you're doing an expansion, and because of the behavior of their currency to the dollar, if you keep the money in Saudi Arabia, you're doing phenomenal. But the timing of when you exchange it and bring it back to the US, it could be a loss. There's so many companies that hedge. That's the key word. They hedge their currency rate when they're doing business. So they're going into a country, let's say Nigeria, and the exchange rate, I'm using as an example. Let's use Ghana. Ghana use the city. Right now to the dollar, it's one city gives you $1. If you're going to do business in Ghana, any smart business person, I use that with sensitivity, you don't come in at 6%. You come in at 6.5. You price it at 6.5. Why? Can anybody tell me why they'll price it at 6.5? I'm looking for a word that starts with a V because of the what?
Volatility.
Thank you very much. Because of the volatility of a currency, you always hedge because it brings stability to the market. AKA, we're back to that inflation word again. So if you're looking for an inverse to inflation, it's called exchange rate. And companies have an entire Forex desk that only their job is to manage, if you're a multinational especially, you can make a lot of money from your exchange or you can lose a lot of money. So it's an entire treasury desk that's their job, is to manage the company's currency. If you're Procter & Gamble, okay, if you're Unilever, I'm talking about big brands across the world, they have a desk for that. Then the next phrase, it says foreign exchange market, a market in which trading of currency and bank deposit dominant in particular currencies takes place. Does anybody on this call have a friend or personally that you trade in Forex? Anybody trade in Forex for fun? Or for
not me.
No. Okay, is Forex trading an investment vehicle? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, it's somebody's job. People make money. Young people can sit online and trade, and they call it pips, right? The up and down of the trading of the currency, right, is actually money that they can make. So if they buy the euro at, I'm using an example, please, 1.4, at the end of the day, it appreciates to 1.8. They have a spread that they can cash out. Now, for this course, what you need to understand, I use that word politely, the difference between appreciation and depreciation. Now, if you can't hear about the tone of my voice when I talk about China, this is why I don't like China, and I'm not hiding my words. It's illegal what the Chinese do. I'm not attacking the people, please. Let's be very, very clear here. I'm attacking the economic behavior of China. Okay? The difference between appreciation and depreciation can make or break a country, period. Now, what the Chinese do, and I want to start from the bottom, work my way up, is when you intentionally manipulate your currency in favor of trade. Can somebody explain that in a different way for my 12-year-old to understand? How do they manipulate their currency so that they can have favorable terms in trade? How do they do that?
They control the rate.
Thank you
So it
very
doesn't go
much.
up and down.
Okay, so when their currency goes up, does it help them, or when it goes down, does it help them? What do the
Goes
Chinese
down,
want?
helps
And
them.
it
goes down, yeah.
Awesome, that's it. And why does it, when it goes down, it helps them? What are they able to do?
The trade is cheaper.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't believe me, with all sincerity, go to the dollar store if you have one where you are, or even take the clothes you're wearing and flip to the back and see where it's made from. So maybe it's not made in Vietnam or the Philippines. Anything in your household made in China. They're the world's manufacturer factory. And they've done it intentional. Their business model is how do we make sure that our currency depreciates so our goods and services will be very cheap abroad, which creates more jobs for who?
For
China.
them.
That's it. And when you do it artificially, right, when you don't allow it to organically happen with market forces, aka the exchange rate and the forex market, it's against the law. You're manipulating your currency. Anybody want to comment on that before I go to appreciation? Because you guys got it on the first round.
The one piece that I've never understood with this, not that I've looked into it very much, because I understand that they can depreciate their currency in order to effectively underbid the rest of the world markets to become the manufacturing powerhouse. But what's the mechanism in place to stop their own economy from going into financial ruin and to stop their people from living in utter poverty? Is it the sheer volume of manufacturing that ends up coming in that it ends up keeping them afloat? Because I would think if you depreciate your currency too much, it would have a negative impact on your citizens, wouldn't it?
No, in an open economy, yes, right. So a brilliant question, Tyler. So I think the premise of my answer would be the Chinese operate a different political economic system, right?
Gotcha.
That's it. I don't want to pontificate it in more detail, but unless you want me to go into a little detail, I can for interest of time. That's it, right? So you're operating from a communist perspective in a controlled economy where I say it with sensitivity, where you tell people how many kids to have, what jobs you do, right?
Okay.
What province you will live in. We're prepared to build a ghost town where nobody lives in just to stimulate. We're going to make sure that we make 1,000 billionaires intentionally, right? We regulate what we want to regulate. We don't have a free market. So the laissez-faire with Adam Smith doesn't apply there. So laissez-faire is hands-off approach, right? Laissez-faire French, hands-off. They don't operate with a hands-off business economic model. So their economic model is false from day one if you want to compare them to us. So when people have a conversation around China is going to overtake the US, I laugh. You can't compare apples and oranges. But if you want to talk about R&D, if you want to talk about how we're tooling ourselves to be competitive, yeah, it's a conversation to have. But what the Chinese are doing, any country in their right mind would do the same thing. It's called self-interest first. Ronald Reagan said it very best, right? We don't have friends, we don't have permanent interests. So they're out for themselves. I mean, think about it, 1 billion plus people. I mean, we're floating around 340 million people based on the last census, 350 give and take. I mean, they're talking about 1 billion people that they have to cater for, healthcare, roads, schools. Oh my goodness. So Tyler, that's my long answer to your question, is that it's based on their economic system that they have. It works for them. It was
Very helpful. Thank you.
There is another factor, which is currency, the purchasing power. I mean, the Chinese currency inside China can buy a lot of things with it, even though it has a low exchange rate, is still maintaining its purchasing power inside China.
Good, great point. So, and what vehicle is going to link into one of my slides later on that they can control to make that happen? What's that I word we've been talking about?
I think because the Chinese currency is so strong, they are artificially downgrading its exchange rate, but still maintaining the true value of its purchasing budget.
So my brother Abbas, you're onto something, but what makes their currency, on what basis their currency strong against what?
Because they have a lot of foreign currency, I mean, and gold. I mean, you value your currency based on what you have in terms of international currency. That, like, if you have a country that has a lot of euro in its bank reserve and lots of dollar in its bank reserve, and they have also gold in their bank reserve, their currency is very strong, right? So they the Chinese currency could could be equal like a dollar, for example. One Chinese currency equals a dollar inside China because they have all this reserve. But if they want to, and then they undervalue it when they exchange it with the dollar so that they can have their product cheaper, as you said. But still the value, the true value of the currency is one Chinese equal $1, for example, then the purchasing power is still high. That's how I understand it. I don't know if I'm.
Yeah, so I want to clarify that. There's two parts. One was spot on, one, let's clarify, okay? Where you are spot on is exactly the reserve conversation. So ladies and gentlemen, Abbas was going really deep into the Chinese currency behavior. He's spot on when he said that the Chinese are able to mop up, that's the term we use, they're able to mop up a lot of the reserves because they engage in export, right? Letters of credit, their central bank have receipts, and they receive those in dollars. So they're able to purchase so much dollar, AKA they can sit on sovereignty debt, they can buy our treasuries. So they have reserves to cover their exports. Very, very important. That's an indicator of your currency strength. So a lot of monetary policy, they use how many months of coverage you have. China has no problem. The US has no problem. Where their weakness is now, right, is that their currency is a fiat currency, right? It's not backed by anything, but just by the good word of the Chinese government. Just like us, we're no different. So if they don't have a prudent monetary policy and a prudent tax base, in the future, their currency could be hurt. If the US wants to really retaliate, use lack of better words, and we have global dominance as we have in the dollar, and we create more resources in dollar, we can cripple the Chinese market if we wanted to. The more jobs we bring back here. So in short, the reserve part, spot on. How the currency is valued and stable, they're in control of the parity, which is the purchasing power. They're in control of it artificially. It's not on open market. And that's dangerous in the long run. And the Chinese are starting to see the remnants of that. That's why they open up their economy a little bit more. Because in the short term, they can survive, but not in the long run.
Yeah, but I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, but the Chinese actually are converting their dollar into gold. So they are buying lots of gold. That's why the gold prices are going higher and higher. So they are trying to back their currency with gold, which makes their currency really strong. And I don't know.
Okay, no. That's why, I mean, that's why we're here to learn. My brother, no, you do know, be confident. So let's be very, very clear. All right, what happened in 1929 to 1933 in the US? What happened? What happened?
Great Depression.
Phenomenal, Great Depression, right? And prior to that, we had the founding of the Federal Reserves, right? Which created all these 12 branches. Now, we used to be backed by the gold standard. So now, Abbas, why they are purchasing gold? Gold is an alternative, right, vehicle to hedge against inflation. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say they're figuring out the world is becoming very unstable. So they want to buy as much gold to hoard, which they can turn into money later on. So gold has become an investment vehicle, and for them to hedge against global inflation or world market prices, but it's not against the currency of fiat. Now we are on what we call fiat currency, which is backed by, if you take our money, I love the phrase, it's quite hypocritical, in God we trust, but we take God out of our churches, out of our schools. It's quite hypocritical, if you ask me, right? But our currency is backed by God we trust, okay? But we are a country of separate of the church and the state. So what China is doing is that it's a hedge play. It's not a going back to what we want to make sure the days where we said, if you want to print $1 of money, you got to make sure you had $1 gold in reserve. The developed world would never allow African countries to have that dominant because we don't have that currency. They don't have that reserve. They would never let that happen. They only will peg it against something that they have more control over. And that's the genesis of what we did. Okay. Good, Carl. Good stuff. Awesome. Appreciation is the opposite of what we have this conversation. So it's increase in the value of your currency. There are pros and cons to that. We're going to talk about that. So the takeaway for you is when you think of currency, ladies and gentlemen, think of what Abbas has contributed, what Tyler has contributed. It's a behavior between your currency appreciating, which means the value is going up. There's repercussions on that with your trade and your business expansion. There's a depreciation, which is the opposite, right? It's your value of your currency going down, and it's all about a strategy. So let me break it down. There are two types of money in this world, right? Textbook definition of money is a medium of exchange. This young generation has proved it to you. Money is anything, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody can wake up today and make money anything, as long as divisible, is transferable, and we can agree on the value. Is money. 20 years ago, was anybody having a conversation around Bitcoin, humbly speaking, on the mainstream?
Nope.
No. 20 years ago, I didn't hear the term Bitcoin. Maybe they were working on the ground with ransom and so forth, but it wasn't in the mainstream. Now, people have wallets that are transferring money on Bitcoin. Okay? So there are two types of money now. We call commodity money, which takes the money from the commodity, intrinsic value. That was old days, right? Which Abbas was alluding to, right? Gold, silver, cigarettes. Cigarettes used to be money. And then prior to that, we have, what was a barter? What was the term we used, barter? What was barter?
Well, changing one good or service for another.
Yeah, so an exchange, right? So I bake bread. Frank is a dentist. I give Frank bread. Frank's make sure that I have the best braces in town. We barter. That was a form of exchange. But there was a lot of loops in barter, so we went to commodity-based money. Now, where we are right now is fiat, which is used by government decree and doesn't have an intrinsic value. So coins, currency, check deposit, US money backed by gold until 1971, right? So it is something that we print and we make sure that we manage monetary policy and fiscal policy to be able to understand the behavior of currency. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the best I can do for you about the undertone of what currency is. Okay, and then we're gonna play a little activity here real quick for those that are my visual learners to kind of get this home a little bit. All right, so let's look at this slide. I'm gonna change into some slides into a website, and then I'll send you my slides. All right, how far, who's our largest trading partner?
Canada.
Canada's our largest trading partner. All right, are they really far from us?
No. No.
No, they're really, really close to us. Mexico is another huge trading partner of ours. All right, the UK, I don't know how much we trade with the UK, and then so forth. So look at all the different type of currencies that they have. Okay, and look at how it performed against the dollar. Okay, there's a performance behavior. And then look at the opposite side. Now, the question we're about to do right now, in your expansion, if you're to take $20 million to, let's say, Nigeria or Saudi Arabia, what is that going to be worth there if you change it? What purchasing power do you have? And how does repatriation, that's a fancy word, of your profit play on your business decision making? Repatriation is simply saying when and how you can move your money back to your domicile country or your host country. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. We're gonna do something here. It's just to kind of prove this point. It's quite interesting. Susan, please be my eyes. Can you see my screen now?
I can now.
Okay, awesome. So let me see what currency I can find. Let's pick on the US dollar. Can somebody give me a country that you're expanding into, please? Give me a country you're expanding into. The first one I hear.
Taiwan.
Did I hear Iran?
Taiwan.
Taiwan. Please be my eyes, If somebody sees Taiwan, let me know. What currency do they use?
Taiwan, new Taiwan dollar.
New Taiwan dollar.
NT.
NT.
Mhm.
Awesome. Done good research.
There it is.
I see it.
Passed it.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna start simple. Chantel, you're very, very rich. So if you want to give me a loan, phenomenal. So I'm going on vacation right now and I'm taking $1,000 US. What does this mean? An exchange value wise and currency exchange, an exchange rate.
That your money's gonna go a long way there.
Phenomenal. Intuitively, yeah. Let's use basic and then we get into business. It's gonna. I like the word you use. It's gonna go longer there. How much of their money am I gonna get?
27,593 Taiwan dollars.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah.
So, if we were to do the inverse, what do you think is gonna happen? So let's say, for example, I make money in Taiwan dollar. So Susan, I think it was you. I heard your voice. So you decided to charge everything in Taiwan dollars, and then you want to bring it back to the US. What's going to happen to you? Are you going to be excited about the 27,000?
No,
Why not?
because it makes 1,000. It's not much.
That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see the basic intuition? So if I build subsidiaries, you see where we're going now? So if I build subsidiaries and I do expansion in Taiwan, would that 27,000 go very far in Taiwan?
No.
Yeah,
Yes,
Well, we,
yeah, it will.
well, I guess we don't exactly know, right? 'Cause how much is a can of Coke in Taiwan, right? If it's, one Taiwanese dollar, then yeah, it's gonna go further, right? But if it's, 100,000 Taiwanese dollars for a can of Coke, then yeah, you're not gonna go much farther, right?
No, and inside Taiwan, this 27,000 could buy you a lot of stuff. More than 1,000 can buy you in the States.
Yeah.
So it depends on the purchasing of their currency. I mean,
Mhm.
27,000 could be a lot of money inside Taiwan. You could buy a house maybe with this money, but you can't buy a house in the US.
So Frank, you see where I think it was Abbas or Pedro?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so Frank, you see his train of thought on that one?
Yes.
Okay, so
I also get Frank's train of thought though, right? Is it a matter of how inflated the currency is within the country itself? Is
Okay,
right.
so-
We don't necessarily know the purchasing power just by seeing the exchange rate
Exchange
between
rate.
the countries, right?
True.
We need to know the purchasing power within the country as well, correct?
And I'll tell you, a can of Coke in Taiwan is 60 NTE.
uh-huh.
what would worry me a lot is trading the
Thank you,
money
Susan.
back to dollars.
Which makes it like $2.
Yeah, 'cause I
Right.
don't know what the exchange rate will be to buy the dollars back, whatever money you have left over.
Right.
That's kind of what would worry me, the exchange rate.
Mhm. Good. No, guys, keep going. I'm just saying, okay, and I'm just also gathering my thoughts too. But what we can obviously is true. We can't make one absolute decision on just the exchange, right? But now what you also want to do is you want to do what we call pairing of currencies and the type of countries that they are in, right? I've never been to Taiwan, okay? I've never lived there before, but we do know what kind of country it is, how progressive it's trying to be, and then knowing how strong the dollar is against other pair currencies. Like, okay, the euro, I know where the dollar will stand. The pound, I know where the dollar will stand and so forth. So it's one of the arsenals we can use to make a decision. But once you understand some basket of services, now we're talking about the micro side of this now, right? The micro side of the consumer behavior. What are some of the goods and services that we can be able to purchase there? Can of Coke, I think Susan said is $2 for can of Coke.
It's between $1 and $2, depending where you buy it at, just kind of like it is here.
Okay. Cool. So that's not too far-fetched from the US, right? That's not too far-fetched.
Right.
All right, that's not too far-fetched. Okay, good. So in some luxury goods, we can figure out that no, these currency things are very paired. Now, what are the other goods and services that in that country that we know that we can have a major advantage in because of the currency exchange rate factor? That's what I want you guys to walk away with. And businesses intentionally do that. They pair up their currency and they know, right, if they can buy land for me, as an example, $1,000, because that currency is not as strong to the dollar, but they know that in some assets, they can't even touch it. They play with the exchange rate, those factor. It's very important. Let me use another country real quick that I have a lot of experience in. and the exchange rate is not really the best. Let's see if I can find, let me just type it in. Perfect. I thought it would allow me to type it in. If anybody sees the Ghana city, please help me out. Ghana, there we go. Okay. So Ghana is on the west coast of Africa, right? Very progressive country, low to middle income country. If I bring $1,000 US dollar here, right? Whole net loss constant, pair of syllabus, right? I get almost, I'm gonna round it up, 6,000 Ghana city. And the average, right? The average income in this part of the world, it's about, let's round it to 1,000 Ghana city.
Wow.
Holy crap. So major corporations like Cosmos, Exxon Mobil's of the world, Halliburton, I'm giving you oil and gas companies, right? They do a killing in this part of the world. And even when they bring their assets here, and then when even they exchange it and take it back home, they still make a profit. So my point I'm making with this whole exercise, that if you can manipulate your currency exchange in your favor, you can leverage it as part of a subsidiary in a country to make more money, if you want to keep the assets there and leverage on the assets until it becomes favorable for you to transfer it back to your domicile country. All right, let's do one more. Let's do one. Let's do another country. Can someone give me another country?
China?
China. Oh, really? We had to go there? Oh, gosh. All right. Oh, my God. Let's go to, Tyler is very rich, so let's pick on Tyler. He has $1 million. Are my zeros correct?
Yeah, it looks like.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So look at the behavior. And I think one of your colleagues also made a point about how far the yuan can go. So it sounds really good on paper, like you're getting that much money in yuan. Okay. Now, the question we also want to ask ourselves is that if I go to China right now, if I want to buy something that is of $1 million value, is it valuable parity in one-on-one? Even though you're getting more currency, that's not a good behavior of their exchange rate or the, for lack of better words, you know, the bills itself. I don't know what proper terms to use for that. There are some countries that have 1,000% inflation. So if you want to buy a piece of bread, you have to take a whole pillow full of money to go and buy bread. That's not a good behavior. Which country is that?
Valenzuela.
Good point, right? So all of that monetary policy has a big role. What I'm trying to run home is, because I want to go on vacation real quick and I want to end on that. I said one more, I lied. Jamaica. Okay, the Jamaican dollar. Okay, I don't have $1 million so in my wildest dream. So let me go to my budget. So, so I'm going on vacation to Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, they love the US dollar over there, right? That's 300,000 of their money. Now the conversation we're gonna have, what kind of hotel am I gonna stay in? Or what kind of small business I wanna start up there? But 2,000 can go a very, very long way. And then
can I say something? When I was over in China though, I felt like my dollar still went a long way. Like, because you mentioned the hotel, like I did the price I paid for this really nice hotel room, like I felt like my dollar definitely went a long way over there. Yeah.
How much did you pay for that hotel?
Well, this was also like years ago, so but it was probably like $50, $100. I did it like a combo thing, so I don't know exactly the hotel, but there was like it was like way more space than I needed. It was like a study area to the hotel, plus the bedroom, plus a nice little balcony, plus like a nice little like living area with a TV and a couch. Like it was like way more space than I needed. And I'm gonna be honest, I was not expecting it, but it was really cool. I felt like really fancy, and I definitely had to video chat my mom right away and be like, guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Give
awesome.
a little tour.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Does anybody else have any other experience where they have the exchange rate? Now we're talking about the exchange rate being in their favor. Or somebody has an opposite experience where they went to a country where the exchange rate was not in their favor.
And if you go to Europe, it's usually not in your favor because they're using the euro, and the dollar isn't as strong as the euro, so you got to use more dollars to buy euro.
Yeah. So businesses that are expanding in the European province have to have this conversation with themselves. That literally, if you're taking $20 million to, let's say, Germany, it's not the net present value, the actual net value of your investment is not what you think it is. You are going to take an exchange loss. It's not going to be in a gain that you have to factor into your analysis. Okay. Another point that you're going to see in your reading a lot in this week is talking about FDI, foreign direct investment, which is pegged against remittances, AKA Western Union's MoneyGrams of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not by coincidence that many people want to migrate to our country, want to work in the US, and then send money back home. If Mexico, and I can't put all of Latin America under one umbrella, is a very amazing part of the world, different moving arms, different economies, different needs, different opportunities. If I literally make $2,000 in the US, if I take $2,000 and I send 30 exchange money, and I have families back home, and I send $2,000 in exchange to peso, look how much they're exchanging back. People can build houses, they can take care of their family, right? And it becomes a whole different conversation. So exchange rates and currency, it's a business structure and business decision model by itself, based on how you play with it. So there's rhyme and reason to all of this. So there's some jobs that Americans will not do, but there's a job that somebody will be willing gladly to come to the US and say, you know what, I'm not saying take advantage of workers, but somebody can say, look, I can't make 19,000 peso in Mexico that easy. I can come to the United States of America, if I can use a street term, and hustle, and I can send that part of that money back and I can finish a house there. But $1,000 a month can't help me build a house in the US, but it can go a very long way in the US. I mean, in Mexico. If you take that same rationale, when businesses are setting up subsidiaries, this is a driver of it, ladies and gentlemen. The currency behavior is a major decision maker regarding where they want to go set up. Yeah? And I hope I made justice. Anybody want to comment on this before we close out? Okay. All right. So I'm done. Do me a favor. These slides are just really, really hypothetical slides. I would love to send them to you if you want me to send them to you. Put your email there and let me send them to you, and then we're going to do some quick recaps. Yeah. Okay. So officially, let's take a 5-minute mental break, and then I'm going to email you my PowerPoint slides, and then we do some recap from last week. Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Abbas, I hope you can translate this for me.
No, yeah, I just retyped it, sorry.
Awesome.
I can switch languages on my computer, so it was in Arabic before.
I love it. So if I want to learn Arabic, how much would you charge me? Can I take your course?
I'll do it for free for you.
Oh, I hope it's not for long. I hope it's not tied to your grade.
You know, 29,000 Taiwanese dollars.
Frank, you used to be one of my favorites. You know that, right? You're losing points right now. This is where you're gonna say, "Oh, come on, do it for this guy for free." You know, this is where I was expecting. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna switch over. I'm gonna put myself on mute, and I'm gonna switch over. Okay. When you get a moment, if you can check your email, that'd be great. I did pop into your email accounts. All right, so let me pick up where we left off. Last week, we kind of ran through some of the rubric But before I do that, I just want to build up on one last thing that you may come across in financial decision making, especially in your research. If you want to talk a little bit more, we're not talking more about on the macro side, but these concepts come up a lot and they're overlapping, especially if you're going to talk about taxes, if you're going to talk about interest rates, if you're going to talk about money supply, prices in particular, and then manipulating your financials. And then somebody mentions fiscal policy and then monetary policy. I hope that we can do a good job of understanding the difference between the two. Okay, so fiscal policy, right, has to do with taxation and government spending. So that's Washington, D.C. That's their main job, is fiscal policy. They obviously, Congress appropriates, right, tax legislation. Then you have obviously the executive and all these branches, but the judiciary is not involved. So we're talking about what Congress does in both chambers, House and then the Senate. Okay, so that's a fiscal policy. So when you hear about budget, when you hear about fiscal deficit spending, and many of these men and women can't come to an understanding based on the political aisles that they're on, it has to do with fiscal policy, right? So now if your conversation is around, should we increase taxes or should we decrease taxes for businesses and give them more incentive, you're having a conversation around fiscal policy, right? So think about that. Now, what are some of the tools you can use if your country's in a recession, right? In the area of liquidity, there are two phrases that we like to use a lot: a stimulus and austerity. What is the difference between a stimulus and an austerity fiscal policy kind of regime when a government wants to play with that? What is the difference?
Stimulus is when they try to create jobs or provide assistance. At least that's on the stimulus side.
Okay, good. And then what about the austerity side? Anybody want to build on what Fran just said?
That's more like reining in spending, so you don't have money going out as much.
Exactly, right. So that's reining in, that's austerity, cutting back government infusion of money into the economy. And it's a philosophical conversation of based on what kind of school of economics you're coming from, right? I'm a more of a Keynesian kind of guy. All right, these people have Adam Smith kind of guy, Morgan Freeman kind of guy. So it's all a philosophical way of how you want to stimulate the economy. The U.S. did a flip during 2008. While Europe was doing austerity, they were cutting back. We provided stimulus. Now the conversation is, how well do we use the stimulus? That's a different conversation. It's because we understood the consumer behavior, that's the economic term here, right, of the U.S. population. If you look at GDP, which is a function of C, which stands for consumption, plus I, which is investments, plus G, which is government expenditure, right? And then plus a function between imports and export gives you your GDP. That's the formula that you had in previous economic classes, right? So the C component of our economy, 60% plus of it is consumption. We are a consumer-based driven economy. So when you give Chantel and Jonas, if you give, the federal government gives you a stimulus with all sensitivity, you're not probably going to buy stocks. You're probably going to go buy something like maybe a brand new tire, an appliance, a TV. I'm not encouraging TV, right? I'm not here to be a financial advisor. You hope we save some, but the American consumer behavior is to spend more. Some people got the $1,000, let's say, well, I don't know, let's say $1,400 stimulus. They actually went to the store, listen now, and bought something for $1,800. What did they do with the difference? What did they do? Most likely. I'm laughing not to be cynical, right? But it proves our behavior, true or false, right? And the government wants to encourage that. And I don't know if the government, I'm not here to speak on behalf of Joe Biden's administration, that they're encouraging for us to go into debt, but they know that we operate off debt. That's a good example between stimulus and austerity. Stimulus is what happened with COVID, right? We were able to get checks It's not because they liked us, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be very, very clear. I can't find a better economic term to use than like us, right? It's what we call this marginal utility or multiplier effect in economics. That if we give the consumer 1 billion, what are we going to get back in taxes? What would they forecast? Less or more?
More.
They probably want to generate more economic activity to get more than what they put out. That's the text basic understanding of stimulus, is to stimulate the economy to get the economic activity going again, AKA consumer spending, right? So therefore businesses can buy inventory, they can hire people and pay taxes. Anybody want to add more light onto fiscal policy, the purpose of stimulus and the fiscal policy? The austerity side of it is the quite opposite, where the government can say, no, we want the private sector to drive that growth, right? So we're not going to pump money into the economy. We're already in extremely debt. We don't want to factor into impact interest rate. So therefore, we want the economy to be fixed on the other side of the ledger, which is the private side. Now, monetary policy, these are some buzzwords that you have to really distinguish between them in 30 seconds. Monetary policy and fiscal policy. Monetary policy has to do with the tool of controlling interest rate, period. It's a behavior of how we impact interest rate. And what is interest rate? It's the cost of what?
Money.
Borrowing money.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's M1, M2, and M3. That's money. Money is classified in 3 categories: M1, M2, and M3, AKA medium of exchange. That's money in the United States. And we manipulate that with the money supply. And how we control the money supply is interest rate. The Fed is talking about tapering. That's a fancy word for saying that we want to pull money out of the system. That's it, right? So they have an austerity behavior instead of a stimulus behavior. Does that make sense now? Because the economy is starting to recover. So they don't need to pump money into the banks. They don't need to buy assets from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, right? They don't need to pump money into that. So cost of borrowing, AKA mortgage, they control that. And their biggest mandate is, what is their 2 mandates? What does monetary policy try to control? It's what 2 things?
Inflation.
Inflation is 1, and what else? Full what? Full what? What do we all aim for? Everybody that wakes up every day going to monster.com, indeed.com, what are we trying to get to?
Employment.
Full employment.
Exactly, full employment. And there are 3 types of employment in this world, right? That is driving policymakers and business people crazy. Cyclical unemployment, fractional unemployment, and then structural unemployment. The first 2, is textbook geek stuff. Structural unemployment, you need to know what that is with sensitivity to give you confidence. Structural unemployment is the stickiest form of unemployment because people have to go back to work or go back to education to retool. So their skill set has been placed them out of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this with sensitivity. Coal mine, what's happening to coal mines? What's happening to them?
Going away.
They're going away. So somebody that graduated from high school, right, in the middle of our country, or let me pick on West Virginia, all they have known their whole entire life is working in a coal mine. They bought their first house, they took their kids to college, they've done very, very well. High school education, you're making $45,000 a year, that's not a bad gig, if you ask me. Depending on where you're living. You're not living in Manhattan. And all of a sudden, the economy changes, right? And you're out of skill. Your skill that you had in 1995 is not relevant in 2021. So you need to go back to work to retool. We call that structural unemployment. And it takes time. And especially impacts the age population. Someone that is 45 years old in the prime of their work doesn't want to sit in the classroom. Many of you, for different reasons, I don't know why you're getting an MBA, but some of you, maybe you want to move up in the corporate ladder. That's a skill, that's a tool. So you realize that you need a certain skill So therefore you can be employable, or maybe your employer is paying for it and you want to take advantage of it. But the main reason is called tooling. We call that structural unemployment. So the Federal Reserve is responsible for inflation. What's the textbook definition of inflation, please? What's the textbook definition?
Deflation.
No, I didn't say the opposite, Pedro. What's the textbook definition?
Oh, I better not say it,
Oh, why not? Come on.
because that's a rising cost of living, right? Or no?
Yes, trust yourself, right? It's a rise of cost. So sustained increase, right? So use the term sustained increase, right, in general pricing. Sustained increase in general pricing. Okay, it's upward trajectory. Deflation, like you said, is the opposite. In the US, we want to peg it at 2.2. Now we're having a conversation around 3%. You need to understand where inflation is as an MBA professional. The bandwidth is not 10% in the US, it's not 1% in the US. We try to keep it at 2.2 to 3%. That's the bandwidth they gave Jerome Powell. Then the second mandate of monetary policy is full employment, is to achieve full employment. We're not talking about absolute, right? There's discretionary worker. I've proven that I got to jump off. What happened during COVID-19 when people were getting unemployment check? What happened to the restaurant and some industries? Tell me what the behavior was.
They closed.
It closed, but why couldn't they get people to come back to work?
They were getting paid to stay home.
Say that again, Frank.
They were getting paid to stay home.
Say that again, Frank.
Did you want me to repeat it again?
Oh, if you don't mind, I'm getting old in my eardrum.
Okay. I said, because they were getting paid to stay home. They were making more money staying home.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some individuals, I say that with sensitivity, let's keep an open mind, that don't have an incentive to work. None. They don't have an incentive. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of cases, I mean, people have children and their children cannot go to school, so they have to stay home with them. So it's not just because they are getting money. I mean, unemployment benefit is so low. I mean, it's not even livable wage. So I don't think that's the main incentive for them not to go to work. It's they have other family, responsibilities that they have to take care of. And they can't do that if they go to work, especially if their kids cannot go to school, if their children cannot go to school.
Right. And to put it on the spectrum, Abbas, I agree with you in the context of that there's more than one particular reason. But if we're to look at the target group of individuals, of course, taking care of your children, your elderly parents, you're for lack of better words, you live in a rural area, you don't have access to broadband, the fiber optics are not there. Those are all these valuable reasons. But the challenge we were having during COVID, it exposed something around full employment for a lot of economists like me, is that people were not being paid what I call living wage, not minimum wage, but livable wage. So if they were driving Uber or Lyft and they were being a waiter, if they were to add up what they were making, they were better off just saying, you know what, I'd rather collect unemployment for as long as I can before I can go back to work. So it created a big dysfunction in the employment community, where it's like we need to retool and look at how we look at full employment again, right? And to add to that point, so if I'm looking at between 18 to 35, holding else constant, maybe they don't have their family, X, Y, and Z, they love COVID during that time. They made more money. And it wasn't good for the economy because we couldn't rebound in a timely manner, right? Because you're not gonna just turn on the light and everybody's gonna come back to work. It took us by surprise. And what the research showed us was the elephant in the room. We were not paying people well to achieve full employment, period. People have different reasons and incentives not to work. And we call that the utility in economics. Okay. I don't know if this helped anyone. Please, there's a big difference between monetary policy when you hear it in the news and physical policy. And when you're doing your research, when you come across these terms, it's a two separate way of how you manage an economy and how businesses make decisions. They take these two factors in and they try to make a decision based on how the policy is moving. They make a decision. Okay, awesome. All right, we did justice to this last week. Red Robin, real quick. Is there anything that you did not understand or need clarification around business combination? Sorry.
Can you give an example of joint venture?
Absolutely, absolutely. Can I punt? Anybody here can give you an example of one? What an
Yeah.
example of a joint venture?
Yeah, so if any of you have had Starbucks, like the ready to drink, like the Frappuccinos, that's a joint venture between PepsiCo and Starbucks. So it's two companies that created something new to sell.
Mhm. And also, anybody where you live, anybody familiar with Kohl's?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then Amazon, what do they do?
Yeah, online purchasing or online offering, but Kohl's has large inventories of.
So Kohl's
Yeah,
will take Amazon packages. You have to like, if you have to return a package, you can go to Kohl's instead of an Amazon or.
Yeah.
Right. So they form a strategic joint venture. Now, I don't know the legal terms behind it, right? Where I can drop off my exchanges from Amazon with the hope that when I'm browsing through Kohl's, I can pick up something. Very strategic joint venture operation right there. It could be a strategic alliance, whatever you want to call it, but it's a bread of joint venture. Okay. Another example that's being thrown out there. So let's say the new Tesla is coming out, right? And Chantel, you create an amazing app, okay, that can make the car fly. Please, please let me invest in it right now so we can make money together. But I don't want to go to jail. So make sure it works well. And then you approach Tesla, right, and say, look, I'm going to give you my software, okay? And then you make sure that you upload onto the dashboard. That's some form of joint venture. So two organizations coming together, right, with proper terms and conditions, that is a win-win proposition for both parties to create an operational for efficiency, to lower costs, to drive out competition, right, or to gain more market share. So those are the driving pillars of joint venture. Good question. Chantel, does that help? Frank, did we help you? Did Frank and I help you?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else on business combination? It
I
could
don't
be
know
a
if anybody,
common.
I don't know if anybody else has another question. Can you explain more on IPO and how that helped? Because you said something about when, if I remember correctly, how IPOs can help you when you're, when they're expanding to another country. Are you talking about like if they started stocks in the other country? I didn't exactly understand that part.
Sure. So it's on there. I was going to ask a question, but IPO stands for initial public offering, right? It's a vehicle, investment vehicle that companies can issue equity, which is ownership, okay, into the company. So you buy shares. But the IPO is your birthday party. You're coming out is where you actually get a chance to be there on the NASDAQ, the S&P, Russell 2000, whatever the exchange that you want to be on, the index you want to be on. Okay, that's the general background. Now, in your paper, globally speaking, it's an exit strategy. So if you're in a particular country and you want to mop up as much money as possible, maybe you took $20 million into the country, you invested in it, your cash flow is quite weak, and that country has an exchange market, right? And you want to list, you go through the regulatory framework to be able to list. You can list on there and then pull your money out and then run back home. That's an example of an exit strategy, or even how to raise money. So your parent company is based in the US, your Apple, you have a subsidiary in Saudi Arabia. I'm just picking on Saudi Arabia today, right? No, let me take that back. South Africa, okay? They have a robust exchange. And you want to raise money in South Africa, but your parent company says, no, right? We're not going to fund this project any further. We said we're going to outlay in our financial matrix 20 million. That's it, no more, no less. Now you want to raise money because you have an option of raising money either through the traditional way, commercial money, right? AKA commercial loan, AKA going to the bond market, issue an IOU, or go into the equity market, okay, to raise money. Those are the three vehicles you can use. So Chantel, to answer your question directly, IPOs is a type of investment vehicle that people can use for exit strategy or to raise more money, which is equity. And then you can pull your money out and then call it a day. So you sell the shares of your money and you pull money out. It's like an ATM on steroids for business that are stocks.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome very much. Good question. Anybody else on business combination? Any comments on the recap? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding the financials and how to build up the consolidated financials, the consolidated? How many years out are we going? How many years are we going?
10.
Perfect. Have we done 3 already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And when somebody says presentation, make it relevant presentation vehicle. What does that mean? Relevant presentation vehicle to support your narrative.
Something
Make it
that
look
looks really
pretty.
professional, right?
Yeah, make it pretty, make it professional.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. I like that word. Okay. Incremental. What does incremental mean in layman's words?
In addition to,
Exactly. Right. So it's a build up in addition to, right? So we want to build it up. So in your analysis, you're building up. And again, I got an email. I want to clarify something again, right? So businesses can make abnormal revenue. Okay. They can make abnormal revenue. There's reasonable growth, there's abnormal growth, and then there's what we call stable growth, depending on the business cycle of the business. So don't only feel so confined with my last statement I made a few weeks ago that it has to be between that bandwidth. No, if you're making assumptions, if you're pressed to make assumptions, keyword is make assumptions, keep it in a bandwidth that you can support. If you can, do you guys remember me saying if you can support 45%, go ahead and do it? You guys remember me saying that?
Yes.
Thank you very much, right? You can, if you can support 150% growth, please put that in there. But you can't just write because the sky was blue. That's not sufficient, right? It has to be supported by some assumptions. It has to be supported with some benchmarks. It has to be supported by some financial behavior to be able to make that happen. Good.
In the paper, when we explain the growth for the revenue, should we go like year by year, or can we just like group saying every couple of years went up this much? Like, or do you want us to do year by year and explain why it went up 3% one year, 2% another year, or is it okay if we just group them together? If that
Yeah,
makes
you
sense.
can jump. Yeah, it makes sense. You can jump around, right?
Yeah.
So you can put it in a little cluster. You do every 2 years, every 3 years. Just you can spread it around, but don't go through
Okay.
2021, 2022, 2023. You can if you want to, you're professional. So, but yeah, I prefer that you group it into different clusters.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Then the next one was it Jennifer or Sydney? Was it Sydney that's the banker or Jennifer? Okay, Jennifer's on mute. Jennifer, are you watching TV? Because I also want to watch TV.
Oh, sorry, I was just tucking my kid in. So I left for a minute.
That's okay. Were you the one that you assisted me last week with the commercial banking part?
No, not last week.
Okay, all right. I think it was Sydney then. Thank you, Jennifer. But
Yep.
today I'll call you Sydney for now, okay? It makes me
Okay.
feel better. All right. So on this part of it, right, we're talking about weigh out the pros and cons of raising money. And we use a term that maybe you've seen before, global capital markets, right? So global capital markets, right, look, just breaking things down. If I'm a US company, right, do I only raise money in the US, or I can raise money using Credit Suisse or Standard Chartered Bank? If I'm a multinational?
yeah, anywhere you want.
Anywhere you want. Ladies and gentlemen, anywhere you want. Consumers are a little bit constrained because of your KYC, which stands for Know Your Customer, right? But corporations, especially multinationals, you can raise money anywhere. Credit Suisse will give you money in a heartbeat. USB will give you money in a heartbeat. Standard Chartered will give you money in a heartbeat. HSBC will give you money in a heartbeat, right? They compete against Bank of America, Citibank. I'm thinking some of the US banks on top of my head, okay? And JP Morgan's of the world. It's a global footprint. That's what we're going there. Do I need to go into detail the difference between commercial bank, commercial loan, corporate bond, and then equity financing? Okay, good. All right. So in your paper structure, like I alluded to last week, right? Introduce the concepts. It just gives you meat. What is equity finance in this space? But if you have enough content that you can talk about commercial loan, you don't have to introduce the other one. I'm just giving you something to start, because I saw a lot of your peers were struggling to get content. They were struggling. This is how you can get content. Introducing the different type of vehicles when it comes to global capital markets. There are loans or commercial paper, bonds, equity, financing, assuming that I have no clue what these things mean, which I probably don't, right? And then break it down. So if you choose commercial loan, break down a tenure, AKA a term sheet. What's the tenure? What's the capital? What's the collateral that goes along with it, right? What are some of the financial matrix that we're going to use to make sure we can pay this thing back? All right, so pick one of the options and analyze what the pros and cons. So if I go for a loan, what is the good part about me going for a loan? I'll cheat for you. If you go for a loan, right, it becomes an opportunity cost. Instead of you using your own capital, you can tie your capital into something that can earn you a better return than using that loan internally for your expansion. Businesses do that all the time. Can somebody tell me what indicator or matrix that would make sense? What financial matrix would they use to come to that conclusion? What financial matrix would I use to come to the conclusion that it's better for me to go outside and borrow than to use the money inside my house, aka my dividends or my organic growth or my retained earnings?
Opportunity cost, I think, no?
Okay, good. Opportunity cost. So what matrix can I use for that?
That be internal rate of return?
100%. Exactly, right? So this money is working for me internally. It's earning me 10%. I go to Credit Suisse that will give me a loan for 6%. What am I going to do? Am I going to take the loan or take my money inside?
Take the loan.
Yeah, but it's other moving factors, right? But just from layman's perspective, right, looking at the term sheet, it's something I want to bring to the board, right, for a conversation. So we can look at the other factors into making the decision. But if I bring in 18% interest rate, really, and we have an asset that we can sell to earn 20 million, and it's only generating, let's say, 2% for us, we need to have a conversation around what we can do. So, and it's supported with financial packaging in your term sheet. So that's a fancy word for saying, give me some financial matrix to support whichever one you chose, right? That's what I want in that session. And then the next one I'm using, we went over this in great detail, right? What are the different types of business combination? And today I went deeper because one of your peers asked a very good question around taxes. I showed you how this comes to life, especially in taxes, right? And we saw the proof of that, how many of these corporations have subsidiaries. Now, I don't have monopoly knowledge to say that's the only reason they do business combination. Absolutely not. But it's an incentive to have subsidiaries in different countries where I can use it to, for lack of better words, again, to hide money, right? To avoid paying taxes. So this is the place where you want to introduce in your paper, what are some of the different types of business combinations that you want to explore? We touch on M&A, true or false?
Yeah.
We touch on franchise, right? We touch on, I gave you the acronym, management buyout. We touch on JV, strategic alliance, build, operate, and transfer, BOT, and inspect is the new, the darling on Wall Street right now, right? That people are raising silly money from as a form of business combination. So again, I'll do the same thing. Content structure. I will introduce what is business combination and which one you want to select. Maybe you're torn between two of them. Discuss the pros and cons of the two. Then explain why you chose that one with some reasonable option and provide at least example or show some evidence of how this business combination will work. Maybe some other companies have tried it before as an example, right? And then if financially, if you want to manipulate some numbers or give me some quantitative example, I'm open to that. Is there any questions on business combination structure? Okay, going once, going twice, so. And then we're almost there on your third rubric. This is your final paper. It was talking about track record, right? So use this section to persuade the lender that your company is creditworthy. You must convincingly argue that your organization is on solid financial footing, the low risk of default, support your argument with appropriate financial statements, ratios, and indicators of financial performance. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been saying this from day one. You went over some financial statements, make reference to a financial statement, either AKA balance sheet, I love that more, income statement and cash flow, okay? That's financial statement, that's your evidence supporting something that you saw in their appendix in your financial statement, you brought it in. Financial ratios, you have so much to choose from that you can manipulate to talk about the indicator of financial performance. It's there. How would I do that? Describe what makes the company creditworthy, right? What makes it creditworthy would be analyzing some of the information that you have based on their financials. I think solid on financial footing. Use financial matrix and ratios by giving you some. If you have their financials, but you have consolidated spreadsheets already, you're able to run some ratios. I like to see that. Sure.
Sorry, I got a question on that. Because with COVID and like my company is Nordstrom, so you know, some of those financial ratios might not look so good. Like, so is it okay to explain because of COVID, but looking historically, like, you know, those ratios might look good? Would that be a good way to try to convince that the company's on good footing? Because historically they are. Okay.
Absolutely. And I like a word that if you want to interject into your paper, you know, to give you some words, outlier, right?
Outlier,
It's
okay.
an outlier, right? It's a shock. We all can agree that the pandemic has caused a financial shock into a lot of our projections, right? So therefore, it's an outlier. But if you were to take the base years of 2016, 2017, this is what our performance looked like without COVID. Oh, okay, you've done analysis to explain why your ratios look really bad, but don't take this negative number as an absolute because it's an outlier. Outlier means it's way out there. So when you do a regression analysis, there's all these dots right on a regression. Then when you draw a straight line through it, we get what we call the R square. But the dots that are way out there that we can't connect, we call those outlier. So for COVID, we're gonna see a lot of outlier on the negative side, not the upward side. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's an outlier. That's an outlier. Okay, so explain your creditworthiness to the position of your company. Provide at least 3 to 5 analysis supporting your argument. So the analysis is what I've just given you, right? Just do some analysis, right? COVID is on analysis, right? Asset turnover, some things that they did is a part of analysis, right? And if you want to compare it to an industry benchmark, so every industry has a benchmark that they play with when it comes to financial performance. So compare it to see how they're doing outside of COVID. Okay, and if you want to be a stellar, which all of you guys are, you can focus on the future projections, right? We call it future multiplier, 10x. Do you know that companies raise money 10, 15 years out in their financials? Ladies and gentlemen, it's real. Go to Wall Street. They give you premium on a company to call a unicorn. What's a unicorn? A company that's called a unicorn, what is that?
A special, really good company.
I'm sorry?
It's like a really good company. It's just like once in a lifetime type company.
Okay. Okay. Someone else help me out. I want to build on that. What's a unicorn? Okay. A unicorn, real definition, is a company that's valued at $1 billion or more. So when you have a value of $1 billion or more, we call you a unicorn when you come into the market, right? So if you're a unicorn and you haven't even made a single dollar and they're telling you that you are worth $4 billion, how? The only reason for that, you don't have historical. Because you started in 2020.
I will be in touch. Why? Yeah, it's midnight. Remember, okay. Thanks for everything. Bye. Bye.
Okay. So Pedro, I was in part of your conversation. I just wanted to mute, Pedro,
Yes,
are you back with us?
I am.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I lost my train of thought there. So if you, I lost my train of thought. Can somebody help me out?
We're talking about the unicorn being a
Talking about
$1 billion company.
Thank you so much. So since they don't have any historical numbers, right, they do 10x or 5x, 5 years out, a multiple of whatever their stated revenue is. They give them a multiple of 5, a multiple of 10, future out. So you can do future. You always don't have to do historical, Chantel. You can always do future, as long as you can support it. You can say this company is going to make 5x in revenue in the year 2030. Okay, support it in your analysis. We're closing out. And then the last part of your major paper here is making sure that you do what we call the soft side of your analysis. All right, credible evidence of legal and ethical. And if you're struggling to find this information, if you have the 10K, the annual report, or even just Google any recalls, judgments, right? I gave you some words. You can use lawsuits. You can find out if they have any of these things out there. Maybe they don't, they're hiding it, right? This is not something they want to put on the front page or the newspaper. So they hide this information. So you have to dig a little bit. And then we talked last week about, Frank helped us out with the 3 types of rating agencies that are out there, Moody's, S&P, and Fitch, that can help you determine where the company is credibly when it comes to legal and ethical in their credit history. So those rating agencies is like your report card, if I can use that term, right? So when we become adults, our credit score is our report card, right? That's it. This shows how responsible you are holding out as constant with your money, right? I know there's other factors that takes us from a 300 to an 850, but that shows how responsible you've been with your debt or vice versa. Businesses have the same thing. We call the rating agencies, okay? That they lobby very hard to get favorable ratings from, so therefore they can get lower interest rate in the market, and they can look more favorable when they're raising money or be known as a good company. So I want you to know about that. See if you can pull that in. I'll be so happy. Even if you don't know, explain what those 3 are. So at least I know you have an idea of those agencies are out there if you didn't know before this course. And then any absence of significant lawsuits or recalls. Okay, you can discuss that. And then in your paper, explain how the company holds itself in the highest legal and ethical standard using the above 3. Company corporate rating, climate change, ethical sourcing. This is a big conversation right now. Lawsuits, regulatory, judgment, recalls, and so forth. Those are the 3 that I'm talking about, okay? And then provide at least 3 evidence to support your case. If you can find 3 examples of how, 1, they're around ethical, 2, they have lawsuit, 3, they're all about, supporting the environment, making sure everything is green, they're recycling like it's their birthday. That's a company trying to be responsible. And then for your last paper, this is the only thing that you're missing, okay? If you look at your final build-up, remember, you're going to take milestone 1, milestone 2, and milestone 3. You're going to create a table of content to support all. So what I don't want to see, with all respect, don't give me an attachment for milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3. It's not professional. You want to make it comprehensive. Okay. So you take a title page in MLA APA format, create a table of content. So what you would do, if you haven't done that already, for milestone 1, make sure you had all the table of content. Milestone 2, all the table of content. Milestone 3, all the table of content. Just following the rubric headers. I just did it for you, right? And then you list them. So from page 3 all the way down to page 45, that's up to you. So you have a table of content. And then there's going to be 2 new things. You're going to create an executive summary. An executive summary is a snapshot of your entire paper, right? It's not an abstract. You can do an abstract and executive summary if you want to. But an executive summary goes into greater detail using, using what I will call in Business 101, what I need to know. Why are you going there? What are you going to do? When are you going there? All right, and where are you going? I'm just touching on these W's. Okay, and then if you want to go to the next level to do a good executive summary, do a SWOT analysis of it. What's the strength of this expansion? Is there a weakness that we should know about? What is the opportunity that you're going after? And what is the threat? You summarize on your executive summary. And then after the executive summaries, it's just a carbon copy of your milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3. Then when you get to the third milestone, the last one before your references and your appendix, is you do a Q&A. So you create anywhere between 7 to 10 questions that you want to ask a banker about your expansion. So assuming that you're going for an interview and you want to defend your expansion. So what you want to do is cheat a little bit. Take the information from your paper and ask a question. For example, how important is it to get a very competitive LIBOR rate for your global expansion? Oh, wow. The answer is you post a question and then you write the answer underneath it. Post the question and write the answer. The question could be from anything within your paper, assuming that you are defending your paper at a committee of a bunch of bankers or lenders or investors or stakeholders. That's the only thing that is left for you in this class lab. That's it. Then you're done. It's really simple. Executive summary, and then your question and answer session. And then any of your appendix and your attachments to go along with it. Your spreadsheet, you attach it with it. If you were to make it a financial vehicle, make it look really, really nice presentation vehicle and had appendix in the paper, that's even good, but provide your Excel spreadsheets as an attachment. Any questions? Next week, I'll go into greater detail about the final layout of your milestone. I'll show you the example. But if you want to get a jump start, that's why I gave you that information right now. All right. Let's close it out. Let's close it out. A lot has been said.
Nothing's in the chat, but I didn't get your email. Susan. No.
Oh, Susan, and you were my PA. Can you imagine that?
Can you believe that?
Oh, who was that? Who said that?
Me.
Oh, okay, you're forgiven because you can pick on me. So because this one there, I thought it was Frank. Oh man.
Why has it got to be me?
Oh man. Susan, charge it to my head, not my heart. I will forward it. I will forward it to you. I'll forward it to you right after this call. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that said, Chantel, what's your takeaway from tonight? What did you learn? We're almost done. We have one more of this and we're done for the year. So what's your takeaway from today?
My takeaway from today is the austerity and the stimulus that we talked about.
Cool.
Yeah.
You have a good understanding of that right now, austerity and then stimulus?
Yeah, well, so stimulus, I feel like I had a better, I kind of already understood, but austerity, I definitely understand better about taking the money out from the system, and that can help control the money supply.
That's awesome. Awesome. Good. Abbas, what was your takeaway from today, sir?
Well, many things. I think the currency, the exchange rate, economy, inflation, and company joining together, whether it's takeover or joint venture. And I think there are many things that I took.
That's awesome. That's great. That's wonderful. Dan, what's your takeaway, buddy?
Probably the monetary versus fiscal policy, seeing how those two are like separate things. One's about taxes and stimulus, and the other's about interest rates and how much money they're going to put out there, I guess.
Yeah. So now we can go a little easy on Joe Biden, right? Right. There's so much. There's so much he's control of, right? Now that you're in more, we're all exposed more. And so we have to pick our battles really well because now you're a very, very informed person, professional. So we pick our battles carefully where we throw blame based on what they can do, what they cannot do. Jonas, what's your takeaway, sir? I think
He
Jonas
may be
just
having trouble with his speaker because he's been.
I think he's gone to Jamaica. I don't know about you, Susan. He's gone to Jamaica. He's like, see ya. He's like, Peace out. Tyler, what do you got? What's your takeaway, buddy?
Oh, I think Jonas chimed in. Yeah, we heard you for a minute there.
Okay, Jonas, welcome back. Yeah, man. How was Jamaica?
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, can you hear me well?
Hope you brought some of the good stuff for us. The legal stuff. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, legal stuff, please.
That's a good one. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's just a background. I use way back, and I picked it. It's from one of the countries in the Caribbean. So yeah, what I picked again today that I have better understanding is regarding the merger acquisition that we talked about, and then a little bit more understanding regarding the taxes, and then how companies they offshore money, and then the understanding how some of them are the reason they do it, and how they right now a lot of them are bringing some of the money back, such as Apple, to kind of help build better the economy here. So yeah, great session as always.
Oh, great. Thank you. Great feedback. Absolutely. Tyler, you moving my screen. What's your takeaway, sir?
I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting, shining some light on the situation with China. I've always known bits and pieces of how they were competitive compared to us, especially on the manufacturing front, but I've never really gone into the details. So just shining the light, what we talked about today was really insightful, and it's kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And I've already bookmarked a few things for me to learn a bit more about what's going on with how they handle their economy compared to ours. So I appreciate that.
I love your curiosity, Tyler. I really do. I mean, that's what knowledge is all about, right? Mark Twain said, "Don't ever let education get in the way of learning." I love that phrase from Mark Twain. We all have to be curious to learn. I mean that sincerely. I think in this modern age, once we get a spark, take it. I've had some students that learned something from this course and now just got their whole creative mind thinking about different things. That's what learning is about. It's not about regurgitating, right? What did we learn in high school? We all forgot it, but we're still here, right? I mean, it's a fact, right? Even undergrad, what did we learn? We forgot about it. So my point is, Tyler, when I hear those kind of statements, it's very encouraging. Where you hear something, but you want to go deeper, right? With the Bloom's taxonomy kind of framework, just go up the ladder of knowledge and just be inquisitive about learning, because the information is out there. The will is lacking right now in this world. The information is too much. Just the will to learn is what we're lacking, right? And it gives you confidence. So cool. Susan, my best TA. You were better than Frank. You were better than Ty. You were just the best today. I mean,
right.
I think I should be like an honorary doctor. Dr. Susan. That's from now on, Dr. Susan. Right.
That could be your joke for the next week.
I should reserve it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna write it down and use it. What's your takeaway?
I think the exchange rates discussion was interesting for me. I also just think breaking everything down to bite-sized pieces that I can pretty much digest and take a kind of scary class into a thing I can understand much better.
That's great.
And not make it as scary.
Awesome. Thank you. I couldn't agree more, right? The whole point here is, I keep telling you guys from day one, we're all learning from each other. So we don't have a monopoly, just being able to break it down in pieces and then tear it apart. That's what this class is all about. Frank, you moved on my screens. I apologize if I called you. I don't think I've called on you. So Frank, what's your takeaway, buddy?
Okay. Well, my takeaway was when we were talking about currency and China and how they're manipulating their currency to their advantage. It was a very interesting conversation. Just kind of learned a little bit more about that. I think it was great.
That's great.
And I get blamed for things.
Oh, all right. That's I mean, you got literally one more week of that, so I think you can hang in there. You can join my next class, and you have 2 more classes coming up, so please join.
That's it. I may not show up for the next class. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank said we're not going to have class next week.
No.
That's what he.
All
All right.
good. It's all good.
Is it Stephanie or Steph? I see the abbreviation as Steph, so I don't know if it's Stephanie or Stephen.
I go by Stephanie or Steph.
Oh, Steph, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing incredible.
So I took quite a few things out, but most people have already touched on it. But I would say that one thing I definitely took that no one has mentioned quite yet is the global tax. That's something I haven't heard yet, so I'm interested in learning more of.
Definitely. Thank you, Steph. It's definitely in the pipeline. We don't have a timeline, but I think the G7, the G8, they're pushing for their own selfish interests to make sure there's more equitable across how money is being transferred across the world digitally at a rate that no one can control, and business outfits that wasn't around 15 years ago when regulatory frameworks, aka tax structures, was put up. So companies are just doing what they do. I mean, regulators are always a step behind. So always remember that regulators are always 1 or 2 steps behind, because they can't, nobody could sit here and forecast a Bitcoin. Nobody can forecast the advent of e-commerce like Amazon's of the world. So welcome to the world of regulators. It's a nasty job.
Can I
Did I
make
get
a
everybody?
comment on this?
Oh, absolutely, Abbas. Yeah.
I mean, governments now, they're signing agreements on taxes, so you don't get taxed twice on the same money. So if if you are in Germany and you pay taxes to the German government, then you don't pay taxes in the US for that money that you made in Germany. For example.
Example, yes, please.
So double taxation is not allowed. I think, I mean, these are agreements that have been signed between different governments, so you don't get taxes twice. So like as an individual, if you are working overseas and then you are taxed in a different country, in your tax return here in the US, you said that you paid how much taxes for that country, then that money is, you are exempted from paying taxes again on that amount.
Whoa, I'm just, my mouth is like open wide, like, okay, so help me out. I am gonna cheat on Google, but if you have any article or anything, please email it to me. I'm very curious because I have never heard that. And please, like I said, 1 + 1 is 4 in my mind, so I definitely don't know. And I want to,
I'll do.
I want to be Tyler. I want to be very inquisitive and do more research before I can add any voice to that. So I'm gonna mute on that statement because I have no authority to speak on what I don't know. Cool. Did I forget anybody? Because things were moving around. Akos? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys. So next week is our last session, right? It's our last session. I have nothing new to add besides what I've just covered tonight. And then what I would do is I'll add more to the final milestone to kind of show you the sample of what everything's supposed to look like. That'd be great. And then I do have a favor. If you guys can, I sent an email out last week. I mean that sincerely. I want to grow, right? I take this very, very serious because I love what I do. You can't tell. It's not, for me, it's not a job. It's not a job. It's not the pay. It's just being able to meet amazing people and share ideas and put our heads together is what's my motivation. So I want to grow. So if you can send me feedback on how I could be better, it will mean a lot. It will really sincerely mean a lot. What I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well, what I need to continue to do, and so forth. It will mean so much to my growth as a professional. I'll be grateful. Okay, and trust me, I'm saying that sincerely. There's no repercussion, right? Like if I say something bad, he's gonna take my grade off. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm begging to grow. So feel free, right? Please, I'm begging for feedback. Please. All right. Good. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. All right. Thank you so much as always. You guys are rock stars. Every one of you.
Thank you.
Are rock stars. All right.
Don't forget to send out the email, please.
Under one condition, Susan.
What's that?
I'll email it to you.
That's fantastic.
All right. All right, everybody. Have a great, enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor. Take care. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, Professor.
All right, you're welcome.